Hello, and welcome to this demonstration of FlightPath. This is going to be an overview of all of the features that you can expect to see in a pretty typical installation of FlightPath, brought to you by FlightPath Academics. I'm going to log in as the administrator, who has also been set up as an advisor, so we can see exactly some of the most common features that an advisor is going to encounter. Now, when we first log in, we are at the dashboard, and we can see any upcoming appointments right here. We also can see a snapshot for our advising. For example, we can see that we've advised 30% of our advisees. Those are the advisees that have been assigned to us, or our caseload. We also have these upcoming announcements. Now, announcements can be put in that are just for faculty and staff, or that can also be viewed by students. And it's a good place to put, important dates and things like that. We also see the advisee activity feed. This is where we can see that, a particular student has replied to a text message, or a particular student has dropped below 12 hours, etc. I'm going to move along now and actually select a student for advising. So I'm going to click on Students, and then I'm going to click on our test student. Now, the first tab that we come to is the Student Profile tab. This is completely configurable. We can make it go to virtually any tab we want it to by default, but we decided to go for the Student Profile tab in this demo. Up here at the top, we see some of the basic information about the student: their major, catalog year, are they an athlete, percentage of D's and F's and W's, GPA, etc. We also see this thing that we call the academic priority. Now, what this really is an AI-driven system that figures out how at risk the student is of falling behind or even dropping out. If we click this little icon, we can actually see that the academic priority is broken up by these calculation tests. Does the student work on campus? Does the student have financial aid? Is the student's GPA above a 2.5, etc.? And we assign scores based on these answers. These tests are all things that are completely configurable. We add up the score, and that's how we just get a simple average to find out how at risk the student is. We can also see these early alerts. Some of them have been automatically generated based on your SIS data, for example, or LMS data. For example, the student is approaching too many absences in a particular class, or the student has dropped below 12 hours. However, faculty and staff, if given permission, can also add new alerts automatically, and it gets sent to the advisor. For example, this person wrote, "I am concerned that she isn't trying as hard as she could." Let's move on to the Engagements tab up here at the top. The Engagements tab allows us to keep track of all of our communications with the student, if enabled. So if you enable it, we can send emails from here, we can send and receive text messages, and we can just log a generic engagement. For example, down here we see that an email was sent, and we can even track and see that the student opened the email. So we know exactly when the student actually read the email. We can also see that the student can reply, and that reply will appear here in FlightPath. This is great for if there are other faculty and staff or advisors coming behind you that they need to see a complete history of all the communications with the student. You might want to see communications the student had with your financial aid department or your student life department. And it's not locked up in some person's personal email inbox. We can also send and receive text messages from this screen. And for things that we can't do automatically, you can just log a new engagement. For example, we logged that we sent a phone call, and we just wrote, I left a voicemail for the student. Next, let's go up to the Degree tab. In this tab is the heart of the advising component of FlightPath. So we see again at the top, we have some basic information, and we also see the advising term. For this example, it's fall of 2020. Courses that have already been completed are in blue with a grade, and courses that have not yet been completed are gray and have checkboxes available next to them. These over here, these lines over here, are actually our elective groups. For example, this one is Core English Composition, this one is Core Humanities, Core Social Sciences, and so forth. And we can see, for example, it says click to select 3 hours. And we have a list of all of our courses that are considered core social sciences. So I can select a course, and you see now it's filling in right there automatically. Up here is a course that the student has already completed, English 1001, and you see that it automatically is filling in for core English composition. So to advise a student to take a course, it's really just as simple as clicking the checkboxes. So we can advise those two courses, for example. We can also perform substitutions. For example, if I click a course and then click the Substitute tab, I can see all the courses that we might use for substitutions. We can even split up a substitution into multiple hours. For example, this course is worth 3 hours, but if we wanted to, we could substitute in a smaller amount, even a decimal amount. There will be more information about substitutions in a later video. FlightPath can also have prerequisites. For example, we see that this course has a lock next to its checkbox. That's because Computer Science 3030, if we click it, we see that it has a prerequisite course of 3020 or 3026. We can also lock off courses based on if they are available for the term that we are advising. For example, if we know for a fact that, a particular course is only offered in the fall, but we are advising for a spring term, then that can be locked off. FlightPath also handles transfer credit equivalencies. For example, this course, CIS 371. Notice the little T1 footnote next to it. That lets us know it's a transfer credit. And in fact, if we scroll down, we can see that it's listed here in the transfer credit box. Let's scroll back up, and I'm going to click this course. And in the description, we see where the course actually originally came from. In this case, Grambling State University. Here's some information about the course the student actually took. Now, what it's equivalent to at our local institution is Computer Science 3010. FlightPath will automatically insert those courses, those transfer equivalency courses, into the degree plan. Okay, so I think we're about ready to actually advise the student. So we've selected that course, a couple of courses here, I'll select a course here. And if we want, we can email a summary to the student whenever we submit. Since this is just a demo, let's don't worry about that. And I'm going to click Submit. Now when the page reloads, we're actually on the History tab, and we see this message that we've just advised the student for fall of 2020. If we click the box, we get a complete summary of the courses that the student was advised to take. Now, if you like, this page can be printed out. The student can sign it, the advisor can sign it, and then you can put it in a filing cabinet or something like that somewhere. Some schools prefer to keep it purely electronic, so they don't even have this section. And there is a complete history of all advisings that have ever taken place. Now notice we can also upload files. So for example, we have this file here, Plan for Graduation, some kind of file that's a memo. We can upload whatever sort of file we want, and it gets attached to this student's profile. If we go to the Comments tab here at the top, we can see that we can leave a comment. And it's exactly formatted the way you would imagine, something like an email or Microsoft Word. And you can make it visible to the student and faculty and staff, or faculty and staff only. It's a great idea if you are advising the student, especially to do something unusual, to leave a comment to help explain why you decided to, make that advising for that student. And if we come back to the History tab, we can see that we can view all of the comments right here in one spot. Now, one of the really neat features of FlightPath is the What If tab. So in What If, this is where we can get to try out other majors and other minors, concentrations, etc. In this example, I'm just going to select Accounting and click Try It Out. Now when the page reloads, we see that now we're in the accounting major, and we can actually see how the student's courses actually fit into this major. Notice the pie charts here at the top show us that the student is 25% complete with their degree. Now if we go back to their original degree, which was computer science, we see that they were at 35% complete. So that tells us right off the top that if they're worried about graduating on time, that they're probably better served by staying in computer science. Now you can actually continue to advise in this in What If mode as well, in case you have a student who is changing majors, but just the paperwork hasn't been filed or something like that just yet. Something else I wanted to point out that I think I neglected earlier is that you can advise for more than one term at a time. Right now we're advising for fall of 2020, but we can also select, for example, spring 2021. And when we do that, now whenever we submit the advising session, we actually see all of the advising sessions laid out so that this is how we can plan out what the student is supposed to take throughout the next several semesters. Next, let's move on to the Audit tab. This tab assists with degree audits. For example, we know that there are certain items that need to be checked off, basically like a checklist. Their major GPA must be at least a 2.5. Their overall GPA needs to be at least a 2.0. At least 25% of the courses earned have to be earned at our university, not transfer credits. These are, we call them approvals. These can be added and completely configured for your university. And this is just a nice way to keep track and make sure the student is on track for graduation. We have little summaries up here to help out as well. And you can also leave comments that are only visible to other auditors. And since everything in FlightPath is based around permissions, that may be visible to the advisor, it may not. So this more or less concludes the actual overall advising components. There's a lot of features that I sort of glossed over, but that's okay. We can cover them in a future video or future trainings if you so like. Let's move on to appointment scheduling. So actually getting students to show up to their advising sessions, to their advising appointments can sometimes be a little bit of a challenge. Likewise, juggling multiple calendars can be a bit of a challenge too. So first, let me walk you through exactly what it looks like when a student is selecting to, basically, they can schedule themselves for an advising session. So this is the screen that the student would see when they are trying to make trying to schedule an appointment with their advisor. They're going to select a video chat, and after that, they can select which day, the advisor is available. Now, the advisor has previously entered what times they are not available. Not only that, but this system can sync with your work calendar to make sure that appointments do not overlap. So if you have something in your work calendar or a personal calendar or what have you, as long as it can be, exported in a standard way, which all of them can, FlightPath can intelligently know to block off certain times so that they do not overlap. For example, we see like a large gap between 9 a.m. and 12:40. That's because this calendar has something going on in between, and we don't want the student to be able to schedule it. Now, once the student selects, they get a confirmation screen where they can confirm the appointment. After that, the appointment will actually show up on the Appointments tab, and it will show up for both the student and the advisor. And if you've enabled it, both the student and the advisor receive a text message and an email confirming basically that the appointment has been scheduled. If the appointment needs to be canceled, the advisor can certainly cancel the appointment. And again, both parties receive text messages and or emails. And 30 minutes or so before the appointment is set to begin, both the advisor and the student can receive a text message and or email to remind them that it's coming. Next, let's look at the courses section of FlightPath. This is where basically your course catalog is input. For example, we have Accounting 1010, we have its description, but more than that, we can also have its rotation schedule. So we can actually see when this course is being offered. We can also upload a sample syllabus. That way students can view the syllabus to see, kind of what to expect out of this course. FlightPath actually comes loaded with lots and lots of features, and this video only scratches the surface. It's just meant to be a brief overview. So if you have any more questions, please, by all means, visit flightpathacademics.com and click that contact link and get in touch with us, and we'd be happy to help. Thank you for your time.